Black flight attendant gets attacked, defends himself, and American Airlines decided to fire him according to the allegation. Put him up for a mask. This is an interesting story. And I have the background. Tillman Robinson, an American Airlines flight attendant, says he lost his job after a combative passenger on a New Year's Eve 2023 flight from Charlotte to Las Vegas attacked him, setting off a scuffle that ended with the crew member turning physical and then being fired. Robinson, who is, by the way, a 25-year veteran flight attendant based out of Charlotte, says he was assaulted mid-flight, then was suspended twice in the aftermath and ultimately terminated. However, the passenger, who was later convicted and completed an anger management class, walked away with a clean record. Despite the unprovoked attack, the airline said Robinson did not handle the situation appropriately and began the process of dismissing him from his job. So let's get into the details. The incident began shortly after takeoff on an Airbus A321, where Robinson was one of 4 flight attendants. He said he first noticed the man during the boarding as he tried to reach the lavatory against the flow of passengers. Hours later, the same passenger drank a small bottle of rum straight. That's a red flag. And shoved the empty container toward a fellow flight attendant. After landing, Robinson said the man confronted him near row 11, cursing and jabbing a finger in his face, which Robinson swatted the hand away. The man then proceeded to physically push him, and a shoving match turned physical. Robinson says he tried to de-escalate, but was backed into a corner with the jump seat on one side and the passenger seats on the other. Quote, "My only recourse was to protect myself in a defensive posture," he said. Fellow passengers reportedly urged the man to stop and exit the aircraft. Robinson said the man approached him again at the front of the plane, resumed the verbal assault, and then punched him, started swinging, okay? The fight spilled onto the jet bridge. Other passengers had to intervene. Police arrested the passenger at baggage claim. He went to baggage claim like he had not just laid hands on a flight attendant. Robinson filed a police report, and he also directly pressed charges. He did everything he was supposed to do. The next day, Robinson was suspended. The next day. I mean, can we just understand? They were able to investigate and conclude in less than 24 hours. I mean, this has to be a record for an airline company that's still investigating claims that passengers have made of racism against them. Those are still under investigation. They cannot get all the details. But for this thing that happened, they have every detail required in order to make a conclusive decision about Mr. Tillman. All right. So the next day, Tillman Robinson was suspended over the next 9 months. He was reinstated, then suspended twice more before being terminated. He also filed an Aviation Safety Action Program report, which was accepted by a joint committee of the airline union and FAA. He's had 6 hearings, including 2 since his termination. The last was March 2025. The man is a 25-year veteran in that industry. He takes his job seriously. I'm sure he is remarkable at his profession. Robinson believes that his case was mishandled and that factors such as his size, he's a 6'2", 250-pound man, might have worked against him. He also points to workplace friction which led flight with the lead flight attendant on the plane, and says she provided a version of events that hurt his case. He also suspects broader politics are involved. Robinson believes the airline may be making an example of him after the union sent a letter to the FAA criticizing the company's handling of flight attendant assault cases. Quote, "My union feels like the company is using me as a sacrificial lamb," he said. Neither American Airlines nor the union offered many details about the case that, while sparked by the passengers' aggression, ultimately turned physical on both sides, leaving Robinson out of a job. American said in a statement, quote, "After conducting a thorough internal investigation, it was determined the former team member acted in a manner inconsistent with our expectations and defined policies prior to the altercation and throughout," end quote. Prior to the altercation and throughout. Let me tell you why that line is so ironic to me. There is no way possible that I would ever believe that the man who's the 25-year veteran is the one who is inappropriate prior to the altercation and throughout the altercation. I would believe that the man who got arrested after passengers witnessed his aggression and physical assaults and also continued to consume alcohol. I would believe that that man was inappropriate prior and during. That last statement lets me know you're throwing him under the bus. Because in a defense scenario, you have just concluded that everything he did was not defensible, and so he's fired. Everything, prior and during. Okay? Interesting. So now at 51 years of age, he's been working as a part-time security guard at a youth football game or youth football games while waiting for instructions from the union, the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, on how to proceed. We're going to help this brother, all right? So I want to remind everyone that we've had some of these dynamics before. We've even interviewed people who have faced discrimination at these airlines. But meanwhile, while this is being worked out through his representation, his finances have taken a sharp downturn. Mr. Robinson made about $80,000 in an industry he's worked in for 25 years, okay? He was at $80,000 annually with the airline. He is now relying on side work and donations. There's a GoFundMe campaign organized by his coworkers, by the people that love, respect, honor his leadership. They have known him a long time. They know that he is not the person the narrative from the company suggests. So let's put it back up. I want to make sure everybody can get this. They've raised over $20,000 to help cover expenses and support his elderly parents, okay? He's a dutiful son, both of whom have serious health conditions. He's taking care of them. All right, so support Tillman Robinson, flight attendant in need. You can go to support Tillman Robinson, flight attendant in need. Support Tillman Robinson, a flight attendant in need. Do the very best you can. American Airlines has been in the headlines for the past 2 years over its poor treatment of their Black customers. These are some that we've highlighted. Remember them? One of them is a judge who came on the program. Very beautiful woman. Amazing spirit, amazing heart. Was treated completely inappropriately. All right, well, part of our job, part of your job is to make sure this never becomes normal. When does it become normal? When we stop talking about it and it continues to happen. When we stop bringing light to the darkness of what it represents. Remember, Mr. Tillman is not just one person. He represents a family. He's taking care of 2 parents who have worked their whole lives as well and are in serious health decline. And I'm sure it permeates beyond that. All right, Yasmin, thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's so funny to me how corporations still expect loyalty from their workers because that loyalty is not reciprocated.
Mm.
Corporations are not protecting their workers, nor are they even defending them against these malicious actors. And it says so much about our corporate culture in this country specifically. And corporate culture dictates so much of life in this country because we are a capitalist nation. Capitalism is embedded in our individual and collective values. This is the country that declared that corporations are people, but then gave those corporations more protections than people actually get. For a long time, the customer was always right. That was what we would always hear. Businesses couldn't afford to alienate customers because that's money that they're leaving on the table. But now people are tired of seeing these corporations alienate and also devalue and disrespect their workers. We live in a time now when job security simply does not exist for most people. Anyone is just a layoff away from being destitute, especially even in industries that have been consistently pretty consistent for people, right? Pretty reliable for people to work in. And they would work there for decades. That's not the case anymore. And, that's so destabilizing because now, if you lose your job, most people wouldn't be able to pay their rent or their mortgage anymore, or they wouldn't be able to support their families. These corporations don't care about any of that. And our nation doesn't have laws that protect workers from predatory corporate behavior, like what we discussed in this story. In other countries, companies are not allowed to just lay off workers unexpectedly. And when layoffs do happen, the company has to demonstrate to the government that layoffs were the absolute last resort. In other countries, companies have to help those laid off workers secure new work. So now, with stories like this one constantly coming out, companies like American Airlines are likely to face much more backlash than they otherwise would have had they just supported their employee in the first place, especially in a case where it's so obvious that the customer was not right in this case. And for American Airlines, it serves them right that they would get the backlash.
Yeah, and we will bring you updates as this story develops. Still waiting on word from his union. All right.